Hello folks, welcome to the Golden Nugget. I am of course the host with the mostest, Rob Gould, and this week's suggestion is going to be shorter than usual. So basically because we had FA Cup action from the third round in the football side of things, and because of that we are with the Premier League as well. There is only 5 matches on this coming week, and there's another 5 the following week as well. So we will get into those predictions very shortly. And also we had some Carabao Cup semi-final first leg action this week as well, which featured Middlesbrough versus Chelsea and Liverpool versus Fulham in the first legs of their semi-final as well, which we will get into again very, very shortly. Also on today's episode, we will be predicting not just the WWE Royal Rumble, but also the local Royal Rumble, which is basically the event held by OTT Wrestling, which is Over the Top Wrestling in Ireland, and it is one of Europe's premier promotions as well. Also on the show today, we will be going over the Raw review from this past Monday. Also, we will be predicting the outcomes of the matches that have been announced so far for the Royal Rumble going forward. So, without further ado, I will go through the highlighted fixtures from the FA Cup matches that we were talking about last week. So, the highlighted fixtures we had were Spurs versus Burnley, Sunderland versus Newcastle, Millwall versus Leicester, Bradford versus Wolves, Brentford versus Wolves, Palace versus Everton, Arsenal versus Liverpool, Stoke versus Brighton, and Wigan versus Manchester United. So, again, while on the subject of those matches, so we did have also there a match between West Ham and Brighton in the Premier League, which was actually on. So it was on the Tuesday, the 2nd, and I will get the result for that match as well because I forgot to actually write that. But I will get the result of that match. So the result of that match was a 0-0 draw between West Ham and Brighton. So it didn't really have too much of an impact in the Premier League table. So as I say, third round matches. Sunderland versus Newcastle. So this was at the Stadium Light, where Newcastle won the game 3-0. Then we had one of the other highlighted matches, which was Millwall versus Leicester City, and again I thought that would have been highlighted for, obviously because with both teams, as I say, in the Championship, and this one finished Millwall 2, Leicester City 3. Then we move on to Spurs versus Burnley, which was on the Friday, and it finished Spurs 1, Burnley 0. Then we also had Brentford versus Wolves, which was also on the Friday. It finished 1-1, which means a replay will be needed. Then we move on to Palace versus Everton, which was on the Thursday, and again this one finished a draw, but also Dominic Calvert-Lewin was sent off in this game, but it was actually overturned just recently by the committee that basically overturned decisions with regards to red cards and that. So he is no longer suspended, as he would have been given a 3-game ban, which means that he is available for the replay as well. Then we move on to Arsenal versus Liverpool, which was on the Sunday, and it finished Arsenal 2, Liverpool 0. Goals from, the first one was actually an own goal after a ball was whipped in from Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then the second was added by Luis Diaz in the 93rd 94th minute. Then we move on to Stoke versus Brighton, which again was a Saturday fixture in the FA Cup. So I'm just looking for that result now, and it finished Stoke 2, Brighton 4. Again, I thought with it being at Stoke, I thought Stoke would give Brighton a good game, which they definitely did. Because Stoke actually took the lead and went 1-0 up, and Brighton obviously equalised. And then Lewis Dunk had given Brighton the lead. Then Lewis Baker had equalised from the penalty spot to make it 2-2. And then João Pedro scored twice to put Brighton into the fourth round of the FA Cup. Then we move on to the last fixture of the FA Cup, which featured Wigan versus Manchester United, and this one finished Wigan 0, Manchester United 2, goals from Diego Dalot and Bruno Fernandes from the penalty spot as well. And that does conclude the FA Cup side of things. We will now move on to the Carabao Cup fixtures that were played during the week. So we had Middlesbrough versus Chelsea, which was played on Tuesday for the first leg, and Middlesbrough won this game 1-0, which surprised many. Definitely surprised many. Chelsea did miss a few chances as well. Cole Palmer was at fault and missed a few chances, a few clear-cut chances. And Middlesbrough do take the 1-0 lead in the Stamford Bridge in the second leg, which will be played in just under 2 weeks' time. Then we have Liverpool versus Fulham, which was played on a Wednesday evening, and this game finished Liverpool 2, Fulham 1. It does sound like an ordinary scoreline for Liverpool, but it wasn't made easy. Fulham did take the lead thanks to a Virgil van Dijk error when he sort of gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Fulham, and Willian from Fulham had slotted the ball past Kelleher in the Liverpool goal in the top end. And Liverpool did have one or two chances in the first half, but not many clear cut. Didn't really give Bernardo much to do in the first half, but then things changed in the second half. Liverpool upped the tempo a bit and were able to get their equalising goal through a deflected shot from Curtis Jones, which ended up in the back of the net to give Liverpool the 1-1 scoreline. And then Cody Gakpo was put through by a square pass from Darwin Núñez, who put the ball in the back of the net for 2-1. But it could have easily been 3 or 4 in the end, Liverpool. But Fulham did have one or two chances as well in the second half. So just before Liverpool had equalised, Bobby the Cobra Reid had a chance to square in for Fulham. That would have given him pretty much an easy tap in, but he decided to shoot himself, and Kelleher made the save, and moments later Liverpool went on to equalise, and then less than 3 minutes later after that, Liverpool scored the second goal in the game to make it third goal in the game to make it 2-1 to them, and they take a 2-1 lead into Craven Cottage, which again will be played in just under 2 weeks' time as well. So we will find out who will go through from that semi-final first, because that second leg will be played on the Tuesday. Then the second leg of the Middlesbrough and Chelsea game will be played on the Wednesday after that as well, and then we will find out who will play each other in the first piece of silverware. Second piece of silverware for the season, and that. So moving on to Premier League predictions for this coming week. So again, as I mentioned at the start of this episode, there is only 5 games going ahead this week, because there's a wee bit of a gap to give teams a bit of a rest from obviously playing in the FA Cup, and then obviously cup competitions that are coming up. So it's to give teams a bit of a breather. and that going forward. So you have Burnley versus Luton, and then you have Chelsea versus Fulham, Newcastle versus Manchester City, Everton versus Aston Villa, and then Manchester United versus Tottenham. So Burnley versus Luton predictions. Now Luton have been playing well, so I will not be surprised if Luton win it. But Burnley need to win this match. They need to win this match. They were unlucky in the match that they had in the cup, so they were. But I believe that Burnley need to win this, so that is why I'm predicting. And this is a Friday match, so I'm predicting Burnley to pick up the 3 points in this match. Then we move on to Chelsea versus Fulham. Again, Fulham, after putting in so much effort, last night with the Carabao Cup match with Liverpool, and that having to travel down, back down to London again, and they're away to Chelsea, and that which could be still a potential Carabao Cup final. You don't know yet. But as I say, that match is at Stamford Bridge, and it is a 12:30 kickoff. But I can only see Chelsea picking up the win now. With that being said, Fulham did play very, very well last night in the first half against Liverpool and defended very well. And that they will have to do the same against Chelsea if they want to get anything from the game. With that being said, I do think Chelsea just have that edge in this match with the quality that they have in their team. So I can see Chelsea winning this match and picking up the 3 points. Now we move on to Newcastle versus Manchester City. And a game which I think will be a lot closer than what people think. Normally people would favour Manchester City in this game pretty comfortably. But Newcastle on their day, at home, with the fans behind them, and playing very well against Sunderland as well, in a big match like that, this could go either way. But I believe this will end in a draw. But I really could see one of the teams winning it. But like I say, I'm predicting a draw because I think that's what it'll be. But I would not be surprised if either team wins this match. Then we go into Everton versus Aston Villa. Again, another tricky match to sort of really predict. Villa away from home aren't really travellers in the Premier League as such, but they have won a few away from home this season, and that hence the reason why they are sitting where they are in the table. So because of that, they could leapfrog Liverpool in the first place this weekend due to the fact that Liverpool don't play until the following week, they play Bournemouth away from home next week. But Everton at home against Aston Villa, I'm predicting Everton win. Now Everton do know that if they were to win this match, it would keep Liverpool top, and I'm sure they don't want to do that. But for their own safety and for their own play this season, they need the points. And with Dominic Calvert-Lewin not suspended for this game as well, I can see them getting something from this game. Now I predicted it for a home win, and I think that's what it'll be. Now Manchester United versus Tottenham. So again, this is a Sunday game as well as the Everton Aston Villa game. I believe this one will end in a draw. I still don't think Tottenham are playing really well at the minute. The past couple of matches I've seen so far, they've been lucky in their matches. Again, so have Manchester United in the games that they played in that they've got something out of. So that is the reason why I've given this a draw. And yes, Manchester United may have beaten Wigan, but it's Wigan they were playing. Do you know what I mean? Wigan, they're League One. So you would expect that United to have won that match. However, this match is at Old Trafford, and as I obviously earlier in the season, Spurs won this game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but this one here, as I say, I think this one will go down as a draw. And that does conclude the football portion of this podcast. So we will now move into the Raw review, also a bit of what happened on the previous edition of SmackDown, which was SmackDown New Year's Revolution. Pretty much we had the big announcement at the end. So we had a triple threat match, which was supposed to be to determine the number one contender for the championship to face Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. It didn't exactly go according to plan because Roman Reigns decided to come out with Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso and had attacked all three competitors before the match came to a conclusion. Then we overheard Nick Aldis saying to Paul Heyman that basically due to what Roman Reigns had done, that the match at the Royal Rumble will now be a fatal four-way for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship, which will be between Roman Reigns, LA Knight, AJ Styles and Randy Orton. So that is one of the matches that's been made for the championship for the Royal Rumble. Now we have yet to figure out whether or not the World Heavyweight Championship will be on the line between, whether Seth Rollins will defend it at the Royal Rumble as well in a match for there. But we do know that he will face Jinder Mahal on next week's episode of Raw, but we will get into that very, very shortly. But because of the actions of Roman Reigns, it's a fatal four-way for his championship at the Royal Rumble. So speaking of the Royal Rumble, we will get into Raw as well here. So Raw basically kicked off with Drew McIntyre, where he came out and talked about his match with Seth Rollins from last week. Basically was he? He was almost saying like, was everyone right? Where they saying it was it? Was Drew McIntyre holding Drew McIntyre back? But then he went into about how Damian Priest was the one that actually cost him, because had he have waited until after the match to cash in, then Drew McIntyre may have actually been the World Heavyweight Champion. And then he talked about putting himself in the Royal Rumble match himself, and not where he declared himself in it. But then he talked about he didn't care who he had to go through, and then he mentioned CM Punk, who obviously was going to be important. Comes out, basically talks to Drew McIntyre, basically said like about Drew McIntyre, did this, been that, been that. Drew McIntyre fought back a wee bit verbally with him, and that where he told Punk that I'm going to be the one who's going to be walking out as the winner of the Royal Rumble, and that CM Punk did mention about how that he did win the Royal Rumble and how he did have that match with Brock Lesnar and beating Brock Lesnar. But again, obviously for Drew McIntyre, that match was not in front of anybody. It was in a performance center, and that's not exactly the way he wanted to win that championship. He wanted to win it in front of the fans, in front of the family. He didn't really get that opportunity. He had that opportunity to clash at the Castle a year later. Didn't go the way he wanted because of Solo Sikoa deciding to show up and debut as such to help Roman Reigns retain the championship. And again, with Drew basically losing so many championship matches, and that he just didn't know what to do with himself. But now he's declared himself in the Rumble. Basically said that he's going to win the Royal Rumble. But CM Punk basically said that he's going to do the same thing. So there you have it. So Drew McIntyre entering in the Royal Rumble. So then the first match of Monday Raw kicks off with Finn Balor versus Tommaso Ciampa of DIY. So this match came about basically with R-Truth getting involved again, as he has been over the past number of weeks with the Judgment Day stuff. Basically saying about like how trying to almost kind of set this up with Tommaso Ciampa of DIY with Finn and that, and Finn was like, is that right? Is that right? I can't beat him. And the next thing, it was set up, and it was made official by Adam Pearce, Raw GM. Then, as I say, Finn Balor versus Tommaso Ciampa, good match, which, as I say, Tommaso Ciampa picked up the victory. Then our next match was between Kofi Kingston on New Day against Ludwig Kaiser, who was on his own for Imperium. This match was a decent match, but you could see the anger of Ludwig Kaiser because of what happened to Giovanni Vinci last week on Raw, where it looked as if Kofi Kingston had hit a drop kick but landed awkwardly on the back of his head, which rolled him out for a couple of weeks, according to commentary. But this match, as I say, was a decent match. It was pretty much a one-sided affair in a sense through Ludwig Kaiser, but it ended up in a double countout. But it looked as if after the match had ended, Ludwig Kaiser had attacked Kofi Kingston, basically getting a bit of revenge back for what happened the last week with Giovanni Vinci. Then we had the Women's Tag Team Championship match between Chance and Carter versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, and which was actually quite a decent match, to be fair. And that at one moment we did thought that Chelsea Green and Piper Niven were going to win back the championships, and that was until Chance and Carter had pulled Chelsea Green out of the ring underneath from Piper Niven's Vader Bomb. And Vader Bomb and Chelsea Green had taken the Vader Bomb. She didn't know nothing about it. Piper Niven knew nothing about it. Then they hit Piper Niven and were able to hit move on Chelsea Green and for the win and to retain the tag team championship, with some women looking on as well in the background, seeing basically who would be next in line for a title shot. Then we had a match between The Miz and JD McDonough from the Judgment Day, who was accompanied to the ring by, of course, Dirty Dom. And this was a very good match as well, and obviously R-Truth did show up in this. R-Truth did do a video package before this match, but it was The Miz that picked up the 3 count and the W. Then we move on to Otis versus Ivar. So Otis of the Alpha Academy and Ivar obviously part of the Viking Raiders. And this match was a good match as well. And that 2 muscly men together. It's not very often that you see that in matches these days, but this was a very good match. And there was a spot where Ivar had jumped, it was either from the first or second rope, and Otis had caught him and pretty much almost gave him a world's strongest slam, but only got a 2 count out of it. But the audacity of Otis to actually catch him in midair and slam him down as if it was nothing. But it was Ivar who did pick up the win in this match, and it was a really good match. Then we move on to our main event of the evening, which was announced earlier in the show. So it was set as a normal match. Then there was a backstage brawl between the 2 of them, between Cody Rhodes and Shinsuke Nakamura, which led into a street fight. And that street fight was a really good match, really back and forth match, and that, as I say, Shinsuke went to use Red Mist on Cody Rhodes. Didn't work out. He hit one of the ring announcer crew type of thing in the face with the Red Mist instead. And then next thing, Cody Rhodes brings Shinsuke into the ring and hits him with the Crossroads and picks up the victory. 1, 2, 3. So does that end the story for Shinsuke Nakamura and Cody Rhodes? Time will only tell. It's no doubt that I think they will meet in the Rumble match itself, and that where they will still continue a bit of rivalry in that. But that is when we will move into the predictions of the Royal Rumble itself. So, again, without further ado, so obviously the World Heavyweight WWE Undisputed Universal Championship between Roman Reigns, LA Knight, AJ Styles, and Randy Orton. I do predict that Roman Reigns will retain this. I really do. Will there be involvement from the Bloodline as such? Possibly. It is a no disqualification match, so there's no doubt in my mind that something will happen. Then we have the Men's Royal Rumble itself. So the obvious favourite to me would be CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre would be the favourites for this match. If I'm picking one of those three to win the Royal Rumble, I think for me, historically, I think for me it would have to be Cody Rhodes, because you don't see too many back-to-back winners of the Royal Rumble, because obviously Cody Rhodes had won it last year, went on to main event WrestleMania to take on Roman Reigns, but which he lost in. But I can see them giving it now. Obviously, they brought CM Punk back as well, but I think CM Punk is almost a too obvious pick to just give him it straight up, because he hasn't actually wrestled a televised match yet since coming back to WWE from War Games. He did wrestle Dominic Mysterio on the road throughout the tour that they done before Christmas, but it wasn't televised. So to still not have a televised match yet from Punk, which I'm sure will change before the Royal Rumble, you would like to think, you know. But you've only got like 2 weeks before the Royal Rumble, so you've got the Royal Rumble towards the end of the month, so you've got a couple of weeks to go. But I think, in my mind, it's either going to be Cody Rhodes. They could give it to Drew McIntyre, but everyone knows that Cody Rhodes needs to finish the story that he is in with the Bloodline and Roman Reigns and things like that. So my money is on Cody Rhodes to win the Royal Rumble. Now that I'm mentioning this, and this actually would be now, obviously his goal is to finish the story as in winning the championship. I don't think he cares who it's against, but I just had an epiphany there where if Roman Reigns was to lose the championship out of the other 3 other guys that he's facing, Randy Orton would be the most ideal one to win this. Because not only if Randy Orton was to win this, from my recollection, I think he's 14 or 15 time world champion. So if he wins this, that would put him on to what is it? I'm not sure if he's 6. I'm not sure if he's 15 time now. And if he was to win it, it would put him on to 16, which would be one behind the all-time record, which is between Ric Flair and John Cena. But if he is 14 going on to 15, I can see them giving it to Orton, because he's just came back and he's in great shape as well. So he's had more matches than CM Punk since returning. Do you know what I mean? On TV. Like, he's already had a triple threat match. He had a match against Dirty Dom on SmackDown when he came back. So I can see Randy Orton potentially winning this, setting up a main event match between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, only for Cody Rhodes to pick up the win and to win the title off Randy Orton, and to have a special moment in the ring, because obviously those two used to be in their weight group that they had, along with obviously Ted DiBiase Jr. and that sort of thing, and that, so that could be something that they could set up. But if they're looking at Roman Reigns against Cody Rhodes, again, WWE probably would want Roman Reigns to keep hold of this title for as long as possible to try and break Hulk Hogan's record, I would imagine. So, yeah. But then we obviously have the Elimination Chamber coming up as well, which is in February, which is another event we will talk about very, very soon and stuff, once we know what matches are set up. So then we will move into the Women's Royal Rumble, which throws into question. There's maybe only one big favourite in this match for me. There's a couple of women who could potentially make a debut, a return as well. Ones who also could be favourites for this match as well. So I'm going to throw it out there, and I'm going to say one obvious one who I think should debut in this, and I think she should debut in this match, and that is Jade Cargill from obviously AEW. She's been at the Performance Center now training and things like that. So I think this one would be her big one to come in for. Making a return from action, Liv Morgan. Also, someone who's been out for a while, who I think, if as long as they're fit, as long as they're healthy to get back into the ring for it, would be one of Liv Morgan's tag team partners and friend, and that who has been out for quite a bit through an injury that she suffered a good few months ago, and that I can't remember her name off the top of my head, and that, but if it comes to me, it comes to me. Then we also have Shayna Baszler as being one of the main favourites as well, along with Zoe Stark, and Becky Lynch also would be one of the favourites. But my pick to win the Women's Royal Rumble, now many people will be like, why her? She doesn't bring anything to the table. Well, as a matter of fact, she does. In my opinion, she does. Now, she has had her moments. She's had big wins this year so far, and that against Becky Lynch, and that woman is none other than the irresistible force, which is Nia Jax. And I do believe that Nia Jax will win the Royal Rumble and will punch her ticket to the main event, well, to the women's side of things, main event of WrestleMania. But folks, before I wrap things up, Sonya Deville is the woman I was thinking about, because it was in my mind there. I was just trying to think of who it was, but Sonya Deville, I believe that she could come back, and that if she's healthy enough to come back, because she's been gone for a while. I also think there could be one other debut in this as well, but I'm not sure of the name. But I think there could be another debut in this. Do not be surprised to see some superstars from NXT pop up in here as well, because for one, they would need to make the numbers up, because the women's division as such, both on Raw and SmackDown, isn't that huge. I mean, it looks bigger than what it is, but it's really not. So we are quite a thin division that you see on TV. So do not be surprised to see some of the ones from NXT come through in this Royal Rumble match itself. If they do debut at the Rumble, and that, you could possibly see them showing up on the likes of either Raw or SmackDown as well going forward, or maybe just after WrestleMania. But who knows? But Nia Jax is my pick to win the women's side of the Royal Rumble. And for the men's side, for me, it would be Cody Rhodes. Just pipping Drew McIntyre. But don't underestimate Drew McIntyre. Don't underestimate him at all in this Rumble, because he has a lot to prove. He's a lot to lose by losing this Rumble as well. But the way they're going to be writing this, I would say they'll be writing it for Cody Rhodes to win it. So Cody Rhodes for the Rumble. And folks, that does conclude, well, the WWE side of this chat. So as I was saying, I was going to be sort of going through the local Rumble, which is the OTT event, which is going to be held in Tala in just over a week's time. Once this goes out, so obviously this will be going out today, and that. this recording, 6 o'clock GMT and that. So obviously we know that from this event that Trent Seven was supposed to be facing Sammy D for the OTT World Heavyweight Championship. That match is no longer going ahead, but we will have an update on that one very, very soon. So folks, check the socials for that one. There's already a video on that from the Weekly Controversy podcast, which will be going out Friday evening at 6 o'clock as well. So folks, watch that video and watch it very closely. That's going to be a really, really good interview to watch. So watch that one. It comes out at 6 o'clock. So as we knew that Sammy D would be facing Flash Morgan Webster for the OTT World Heavyweight Championship at the local Rumble. Then we will have the local Rumble event. So as we know, most Royal Rumbles, when you have got tag teams entering in and things like that, they enter in as one individual. However, from what I've heard through OTT management is that basically that this Royal Rumble is different. So if you're a part of a tag team, you will enter as one entrant and you will enter together. However, now this is from what I've heard, if one of those members of a tag team wins the Royal Rumble event, it's them who win the Rumble, not the team. However, that would have made it more interesting. So, with that being said, who would be my pick to win this Rumble event, take on the OTT champion at Scrappermania? Now, folks, do not forget that this is, well, a 30-person event as such. So you will, I would imagine you will get a few women announced for this match as well. So with that being said, my pick to win the local Rumble to face Sammy D for the OTT World Heavyweight Champion at Scrappermania in the stadium it's a really tough call, because sometimes without knowing who's actually going to be in it, and this is the surprise of Royal Rumbles that I love. So there's somebody who hasn't been announced to be in this Rumble match yet, and I believe they will be in this Rumble, and I think he would be one of the favourites for it as well. But I also think that they could also enter in as a tag team. That being said, the team who I think that will enter into this match will be the team of the Detachment, which is Terry Thatcher, Steve Savage, and Raven Creed. I believe all three of them will enter this Rumble match, and it's going to be one of them that's going to walk out the winner of this Rumble match and be the number one contender for either the OTT World Heavyweight Championship or the OTT Women's Championship, depending on which member wins from the Detachment. That is my theory. That is how I think that they could be brought back into this, and they would be one of my winners. Because when you look at Terry Thatcher, you go, yeah, he could be a champion. When you look at Steve Savage, you look at him going. When you look at Steve Savage, you look, yeah, champion material, no question. When you look at Raven Creed, who is still owed a one-on-one OTT Women's Championship match as well. So folks, do not rule out the detachment entering this Rumble match, whether it would be just one of them or whether it would be all three of them. Because we know from the last show that they were actually all on, where Noah Walker had destroyed Terry Thatcher and basically walked out on them. So, with that being said, I think it's time for the detachment to be back on OTT. And it's time for the detachment to be champions. Because OTT will just become detached. And folks, that is going to do it for this episode of the Golden Nugget. I have, of course, been your host with the most, Rob Gould. And folks, as we do know here at the Golden Nugget, I will be having guests on as well throughout the year, and that I will be doing the odd special episode as well and stuff. So we know we will be coming to 20 games gone in the Premier League for some teams this week, for some teams next week. Now, with that being said, Manchester City's match against Newcastle this Saturday, that will bring them up to 19 games played. So, with that being said, if Manchester City don't get something from this game, and that because don't forget, folks, they still have a game in hand over the top teams. Obviously, the top teams being Liverpool and Aston Villa at the top of the table. And we will just go into the Premier League table itself and look at it. So as things stand, Liverpool are top, 45 points. Well, even if Villa win, they only go joint top, but their goal difference will not take them above Liverpool. Unless if they win by 7 goals to 0 or something like that. Manchester City, they will actually go on to 20 games played. So we are actually at the stage of where there's 20 games played now in the Premier League. And that, but Man City have only played 19 because of obviously their participation in the World Club Championship. So by the time that Liverpool next play, Manchester City will be on 20 games played. But how many points will they be behind the top teams? That's going to be the question. Because Liverpool are already 3 points ahead of Aston Villa with 20 played. Manchester City are sitting third with 19 played. But if Manchester City do beat Newcastle, that puts them 2 points behind Liverpool with the same number of games played. So, with that being said, Liverpool still have only lost the one game, which we know which one it was, because it shouldn't have been. We know that Liverpool should have been further ahead due to VAR. Again, that's going to be for another episode, because we are going to talk about, in an episode towards the end of this month, going into February, because February is going to be a big month. February and March are going to be 2 big football months, because you've got the return of the Europa League and Champions League coming up very soon. And obviously the latter stages of the FA Cup as well, which obviously Liverpool are still in. So the fourth round matches will be coming up very, very soon again. And also you've got the Carabao Cup final as well. So depending on who wins the 2 semi-final matches as well. But yes, so it'll be an interesting few months, to say the least. But yeah, but folks, that does conclude this episode of the Golden Nugget. I have been your host, as I say, Rob Gould. And as I say, as always, my socials are Facebook Rob Gould, Twitter /X Rob Gould, TikTok Robert Degree with 2 8s, and at Gmail as well, which is GouldenRobGould Also, folks, I just want to say also I am a part of the 5 Marks podcast team as well, and that which we basically do podcasts every week as well, which will go up, and that which will be done go up on a Saturday as well. As I say, if there's anything that you want to throw at me, whether it's on here, if there's anything that you want to sort of into the 5 Marks as well, just let myself know, or let one of the 5 Marks members know as well. And that, as I say, we will be doing, because I know I will be doing on this one, I'll be doing different polls and different takes on things between football and wrestling. Obviously, the 5 Marks podcast is obviously more wrestling related than anything, and that. But folks, if you don't already subscribe to the likes of the 5 Marks, and that, do so. Also, I just want to get up the socials for the other web page, which, if memory serves me right, it is. Give me 2 seconds. I just need to get the right name for it here first of all. So it's Weekly Controversies, and with Anto and Dean. As I say, which they will be doing weekly controversies. I would imagine it's basically wrestling controversies as such. Which the episode will go up, as I say, on Friday. The first one this week is a big one, but I'm not going to announce who it is until the episode goes up itself. But it's a big one. So this will be the first one with a guest on it. Last week's one they had was basically just an introductory episode to basically explain to the audience who they were and things like that, and what they're going to be doing going forward. So folks, keep your eyes and ears peeled out for that one. And that, as I say, that one will go up this Friday as well. So keep a wee eye out on the socials for that as well. And folks, as always, if you already do this, then it's perfect. If not, there's only one thing that you need to do if you don't already do this, and that is to acknowledge the Goulden.